Hello, coaches. Welcome back to the series on the ICF Core Competencies, the 2025 updates to the Core Competency, the minor updates. I'm Brighton West. I'm the host of the series. And today we're going to be talking about Core Competency number 5, which is maintains presence. So today I've got a coach, Carlos Ferreira, and he was part of the group that met in Paris to go over these updates. So he's going to be talking to us a little bit about these. So Carlos, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Brighton. It's really a pleasure to be here, and thanks for making all this effort in knowing how to pronounce my name.
Yes. Well, we skipped his official first name, but he goes by Carlos because it is much easier for the rest of us in the world who don't speak Portuguese, I guess, to pronounce. So why don't you go ahead and give us a brief overview of the core competency, not necessarily the updates, but just what does a coach need to be thinking about when it comes to maintaining presence?
Okay. It won't be a speech like a professor or a teacher, but the way I feel and the way I understand my peers and colleagues feel about this competency. Keeping presence or maintaining presence is the essential behavior that we have when relating with our clients. We have to be aware of what's going on with the client, of what's going on inside ourselves, so that we don't let us step on what should be in service of the client. We should be aware of all the changes and the characteristics of what they are saying, both in words and in feelings and in body behavior, and also be aware of when we are in the risk of letting our minds drift away somehow. So in just brief moments that we are with our clients, we have to be fully in focus with them. And that's maintaining presence in a sense. But it's also in a sense being aware of what's going on inside of us, and whenever needed, bring up to the table, but not letting it guide the conversation.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So let's go into what's changed. So I know this one just had a minor change. So what is new as of 2025?
Okay, so we have only added one item to the competency, and I will read it because I don't know it by heart. But it's the item 5.3 now. We had 6, now we're going to have 7. And it says, remains aware of what is emerging for self and client in the present moment. So not only what might be happening when you say in this competency, for instance, being curious. So we have to let us think of what came as something not understood from what the client said or from how the client behaved. We also have to be quiet so that the client can elaborate their thoughts. But we have to be aware from what's emerging inside ourselves and what's emerging in them through the reflection that the client's doing, through the thoughts that are going in his or her mind, and inquire. No?
Thanks. So how does this apply to everyday coaching?
The basic thing to think, Brighton, is what we are doing in updating the competencies is not telling people what they have to do, but it's bring to the competencies what we already do. So we had in this process of reviewing the competencies, made inquiries with hundreds, thousands of coaches globally. And I participated in the last phase that was a workshop to see what came up from the whole community of coaches and say, that is something important that is not yet in the competencies. That's something that most of us already do. And all of us should do, if not always, but in many cases or in most cases. So this is something that most coaches already understand what it means, already do it somehow, but it was not reflected in the competencies yet.
Okay, great. So this is good. This is kind of codifying a lot of what coaching is and what coaches do on an everyday basis. But let's talk about when a coach is doing this well, what does that really look like? So if someone's new to coaching, what should they aspire to be doing?
Actually, you're making up tough questions because I understand each coach will have his or her own interpretation, but it's something like that. If there is something going on in our interaction that I feel emerging, I have to bring it on the table and let the client elaborate on it. So, let's say I feel that it's coming from our interaction. There is something, it's not clear in your mind yet. And that's the way it landed in me. How did it landed in you? And expect the person to see if it's also emerging in them. If not, if what they said evoked that in me, why should that be? And let them elaborate and go on. So our purpose here is not to tell anything to them, but help them bring from the partnership that they are building with us and the thoughts they are developing.
Okay, well, let me ask this question from the opposite angle, which might be, when someone hasn't mastered this core competency, what does it look like? So this will help people who are newer to coaching see when they should kind of have that red flag go up in their head and say, oh, wait, I'm doing that thing I'm not supposed to be doing. So what are some of, from your standpoint, what are some things to watch out for?
In a benign mode, the person could only disregard. So the client says something that emerges a feeling or a thought, and we disregard that because it's ours, and it might be useful to bring to the table. Or assume what we perceived as being the full reality and give an interpretation, give an information to the client as if it were what he or she should be thinking, and not just pointing, well, this is something that is emerging. Sometimes when the client says something or behaves in a way or creates the situation that makes something emerge in our history and let our mind drift away, and we lose the contact with the client, and we dive into our own thoughts and into our own feelings, that would be a high risk in the coaching scenario. Regardless if the person is new or old in the profession, that happens. And it's important for the coach to be aware that it's emerging and that it may be hard for the coach to deal with. And when it's the case, to be transparent and share that with the client.
Great. So this is good. It's not as simple as a coach picking up their smartphone and starting to go through Facebook during the coaching session. That's not something that coaches would ever do. But it's a little more subtle as to what your mind is doing.
Sure. I doubt that an example as radical as the one you gave would ever happen. But if you think that how hard it is for a person to be during 60 minutes or around 60 minutes fully concentrated in the person in front of them, this is a very important muscle to develop. So maintaining presence means I'm 100% here, not only paying attention to you, but I'm here. I'm not thinking on what I have to do next, on I have not done yet. Not being present is I am with you and I'm fully in this conversation. If you will, it's almost like, no, that would be too much to say that it's a meditation, but we are present. It's like when you go to the gym and you are paying attention in what your body is doing. Now you are in a coaching conversation, you're paying attention on what's going on here now with you, with the client, with our interactions, and with what's emerging inside of you and what's emerging inside of them.
Awesome. I love the way you said that. So let's go with our final question, and that is, did we miss anything in this conversation here? So yeah, is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up today?
As it's a new competency and it's not detailed as we have spoken here, people will have different interpretations, and that's important. So what is most important in my thought now is that people talk with their mates, with their peers, and reflect on what would that be in my reality. How can I take advantage of this competency that's being acknowledged now? How do I already do it? And what I feel now validated on keep on doing and evolve.
Awesome. Thank you for adding that. And thank you all for watching. There are, of course, more videos in this series. And if you'd like to go on to core competency number 6, you can use this up here. You can find it up here, or you can go start from the beginning down here. So thank you once again. Thank you, Carlos. And thanks to all the coaches who are watching.